Hello, everybody. My name's James. Welcome to another Planet FPL Clash of the Correspondents. And on this COTC, we've got a big crunch top five clash. Mark Sutherns can't quite believe it. Firstly, let me introduce you to our Arsenal correspondent, Adam Pritchard. How are you, Adam?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thanks, James.
Good man. And our Nottingham Forest correspondent, Mark Sutherns here. How are you, Mark?
Hello. I'm still getting used to playing Arsenal, let alone playing Arsenal and the prospect of not getting thrashed. So I'm delighted.
I just want to, if you just look to one side there, Mark, I can see your nose is bleeding from here, mate. Are you
I know.
genuinely
It's
okay?
crazy.
Good start. Adam, what do you make of your start for Arsenal? 19 points from 11.
I think it has been, or it's the kind of perspective of it has been worsened, obviously, by how well Liverpool are doing. I think we kind of came into this season, I'm sure you and I discussed it before the season started, knowing how tough this opening set of fixtures was going to be, especially the fact that we played City away, we had the North London derby away, Chelsea away as well, probably even tougher at this point than we were expecting them to be before the season started. So I think with a little bit of perspective and kind of the context um, that the drop points have come in, I'm kind of probably on the more happy in air quotes end of the Arsenal fan spectrum, but I know there are quite a lot of people who are feeling very frustrated at this point in the Arsenal fan community.
Why?
I think obviously everyone has kind of it felt like we went through that stage where we had the City game, we had the Brighton game, we had the Bournemouth result as well, where even though there were perhaps aspects of those performances that weren't maybe Arsenal at 100%, the wider narrative around why points were dropped in those games was refereeing decisions, or as it was put in the kind of Arsenal circles, refereeing errors. Like the whole "we were robbed" kind of narrative was at the forefront of any analysis of those games, which I understand to a certain extent. But I think in kind of more over the last couple of matches, certainly the Newcastle game, I think not there is no excuse because obviously there's always like reasons why you can factor into you not winning a football match. But I think then it really hit home the kind of lack of creativity we had that had kind of perhaps been an underlying current throughout the season thus far, and how stagnant and stale Arsenal were in that game, and the fact that we were, to kind of use a Sam Allardyce phrase, we were out tacticked by Eddie Howe and Newcastle. Really, that felt like the kind of first time this season people had almost been forced to put aside like kind of external factors and say, no, really, Arsenal were the only ones to blame for this result.
Makes a change. You actually took one on the chin. Well done, mate. Congratulations. Are you more worried by Liverpool or encouraged by City at the moment? I mean, in the context of your challenge. Obviously, Liverpool, as you said, have done much better than expected. But do you take consolation from the fact, you're there with City despite having had tougher fixtures?
Well, that's the interesting thing is that City, I think City at this point last season had 27 points, and I think Liverpool are on 28 points now. And City then went on a run in their next six games where they only got 7 points. And I don't think really people, certainly last season, were seeing City going through that kind of barren spell. So I think putting it in that kind of context and framing it in that way, like anyone can drop points at any time. So I don't think I'm of the mind that Liverpool are going to continue in this form from now until the end of the season. Like they will hit a rough patch. And I think there have already been signs, even in the Aston Villa game, where they probably deserve to win, but I think Villa put up a decent fight. So because the team at the top of the table isn't this kind of monolithic monster that we're used to City being, I think that's perhaps why I'm not feeling as worried as I might be if it was Man City.
Yeah, if you were the nine behind City and the Rodri was fit, etc., you'd be thinking, oh crap, I think.
Yeah, yeah, no, probably.
Yeah. Mark, how do you view Arsenal at the moment?
I think the injuries are key. I mean, the back four hasn't been settled because they've had um, injuries to in the fullback areas. Lots of kind of chop and change there. And obviously they had the red cards, 3 red cards. That's going to impact you. And then Odegaard is absolutely key. And we sit here now on the eve of Odegaard's first, on his return now to their starting lineup, just as they play Forest. So it's quite unfortunate because there's no question he's an absolute quality player, and he's the player who unlocks defences when the low block turns up. And I think they've struggled to do that. As a result, they've been a little bit too predictable. Obviously, Saka's the focal point, but when Odegaard's over that side and they've got the right back settled, and those three are in tandem, I think that's key to the way Arsenal attack, and that hasn't been there this season, but it will be very soon.
Okay. And Mark, your start. We've mentioned 3 teams challenging for the title. Are you the fourth, though?
No. I mean, we're absolutely loving it, though. I mean, the attention we're getting, some of the tweets from Paddy Bauer, it's really funny, and we're very realistic about it. Yeah, we're not going to do a Leicester, but I'm absolutely over the moon that it looks, even this early, like we haven't got to look over our shoulder, and that's the biggest win of all. I'm not kind of foolish enough to set targets yet in terms of, can we get a European place? I'm not dreaming of that, really. It's nice to, but I'm just relieved that I'm not going to spend April, May looking at the table anxiously. I think we're going to be pretty comfortable, I'd like to think, given the start we've had. And then where do we go from here? Because, things are changing at the club, and Marinakis' ambition is not going to be quelled by a good season. If we finish mid-table, he's going to look at that and go, right, well, it's top 8 next season, maybe even higher. So what will he do in January? What will he do in the summer? We tend to go easy in the transfer windows. We tend to play them quite straight back, don't we? So
it is. Let's not go down that route. Is there a danger that he's seen you in third and got quite excited by that?
I think he's a football man and he's realistic enough to not to think that. No,
I just mean because you spoke to us in the past and said it will sort of be like, Nuno gets us to halfway, but then if Nuno can't take us beyond halfway, he'll go and get someone else.
Yeah.
Even though you'd have to look and say Nuno's doing a great job at the moment, right? We're not saying Nuno's job's under threat now, but might he look at it and go, oh, I could smell Champions League for a moment there?
I'd like to think not. I'd like to think he's realistic, and the goals were set at the start of the season, which we're not privy to, but I imagine the goals were break into the top 10, break in the top half. That was the kind of wish list, and we're exceeding that at the moment. But I think when we settle, we'll probably be around that mark between 8th and 14th, somewhere around there. I hope he's realistic with his ambitions for this season, but I think it will go off the scale if we do achieve a top 10 finish for next season. I think that he will sit down with whoever's manager, whoever's backstage with him, and look at what we have to do to push up into the European places. Like I sit here now and don't think we'll push for Europe this season. I think realistically we'll probably fall to 8th, 9th, 10th. I absolutely think we're going to push next season if we finish 8th, 9th, 10th, because he will give us what we need to make that push, and that's when the pressure will come. That's when the expectation will come.
Don't forget to stay within PSR though, Mark.
Oh yeah, of course. There's that little thing, but that'll change. That's all.
Yes,
that's all changing.
It likely will. Adam, how do you view Forest?
Well, I mean, certainly better than the 18th or 19th, and I think I predicted them at the start of the season. I was
Cheers,
one
Adam.
of, well, I've set the bar low, so you can never be too disappointed. But yeah, I wasn't.
You've
really...
probably got more points, Mark, than whoever finishes 20th. You know that.
Yeah,
probably. I didn't have a kind of Nuno and Forest renaissance on my bingo card for this season, but I mean they've been very, very impressive, and they've always, what's struck me is I feel like they've always had some really, really interesting attacking ingredients, especially with like Callum Hudson-Odoi, Elanga, and Gibbs White. It's like that's quite a dynamic, like fluid, like 3 to have behind a striker. I can't say I thought Chris Wood would be the striker to be banging in all the goals this season, but I doubt many people did. But I mean, with the kind of supply he's got, I think he's exceeded all expectations for how he's performed so far. And like the numbers have been proven out, they're very, very defensively solid, which is perhaps more on the predictable end of where you would expect Nuno as a manager, his strengths to be. So yeah, far, far exceeded the expectations that I had for them.
Banana skin, this isn't it, potentially, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, we're at risk of kind of, from an Arsenal mindset, we're at risk of looking kind of over the course of the next 9 games are probably more favourable than the start we've had, and thinking that that run begins now, whereas like as Forest have proved this season, they should not be looked past at all.
Unbeaten away from home, Mark. I remember you coming on this podcast and it felt like you couldn't even score away from home.
No,
What's going on?
yeah, I mean we're very effective away from home, and that's the nature of how he set the team up to be very solid with a back four. We don't need to play a back three to do that anymore. He's got a very good back four. That unit they complement each other very well. I think the fullbacks are amongst the best pairings, and I think the two centre backs are amongst the best pairings. So it's certainly a top 10 defence, I would say, if you look at it. And the spirit throughout the team means we're defending really well as a team. Yates and Dominguez have been outstanding since Sangare and Danilo got injured. They have come in and exceeded my expectations in terms of the jobs they do in front of the back four. And then we've got that threat up front, that pace and that tenacity through Gibbs White, where teams are wary of us. They can't throw numbers at us to break us down because they know that we've got that threat on the break. So we're absolutely set up for playing Liverpool, City and Arsenal away, because we know exactly what the script will be. It'll be, we'll let them have the ball, we'll channel them, and we'll double up on, in this case, we'll probably double up on Saka by playing Anderson out on the left, I imagine, to help Moreno. Well, like we did at Anfield on Salah, and it worked incredibly well on Salah then, really shut him out. Salah, I think, had a bad day, and maybe Saka will rise above that. But I think the blueprint's there. I mean, we take what we did at Anfield and we'll try that again. He'll probably play Hudson-Odoi from the start, but he won't play Elanga.
What, Hudson-Odoi to the right, you think?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And then he'll have Elanga up his sleeve if we're still in it with 20 minutes to go. So, I mean, we know exactly what the game plan will be. And we kind of, before Odegaard, if Odegaard wasn't fit, we knew exactly what to expect from Arsenal. Now with Odegaard back, he's a box of tricks, and they're a lot more unpredictable with him in the side. But I still think we could probably write the script now. We know what kind of game to expect.
Yeah, I mean, Newcastle set that template against Saka as well, didn't they, Adam, with the doubling up on that side very much against him. Mark suggesting Forest will do similar. But his Odegaard being back now just mean he just funnels it back into Odegaard, and your creativity is there now that it wasn't there against Newcastle.
Yeah, I mean, I would certainly hope so. And I kind of Saka getting doubled up against is probably nothing new for him, and it's nothing really new for Arsenal to face as a problem. But yeah, like you say, when we have that right side kind of fully fit, but obviously Ben White now being injured looks like he'll be out for sort of 8-ish weeks. That's another kind of knock to the attacking potential of that side. So maybe they won't be able to link up as kind of fluidly as they were in the peaks of last season. But yeah, Odegaard kind of operating in that right-hand side, like half space between the midfield and the attack, just gives Saka the option to lay it off, and you can have multiple runners going off Odegaard. So yeah, it's not not that Saka is a one-dimensional player, but it's not like a single point of failure down that right-hand side from an attacking perspective anymore.
Do you feel like you're in must-win territory now? I know psychologically it's like the run starts now, Adam.
The way I've kind of looked at it is out of the next sort of like 9 or 10 games, I think we probably need to win 7 of those. So that does include games like Man United at home. I think it also probably stretches just up to Brighton away as well. So those are probably 2 of the toughest games, I would say, in this next run that we've got. I wouldn't say must win, because that perhaps adds like an extra like narrative weight to this game that I don't necessarily think it has. Like as good as Forest have obviously been this season with Odegaard back, I'm expecting, and kind of the performance he put in at Chelsea, I think after he had like 1.5 training sessions was incredible. I thought, like, for his relative level of fitness, I was really impressed. So an even more fit version of Odegaard, a hopefully non-broken toe version of Declan Rice. I think we'll look in much better creative shape than we have done in any game thus far.
Mark, do you set up there to get a 0-0? Is that first and foremost the target? Or do you now, because of Liverpool, Chelsea and Brighton, is the strategic target to actually go there and win the game?
Yeah, we're not going for 0-0. We're going to, concede possession but defend without the ball very well as a unit, and use our threats on the break. So we'll go there expecting to score, but it's whether we can keep Arsenal out. I think we know exactly. Nuno knows exactly how to play this game, and tactically, I believe, and we've got players fit. We haven't really blighted by injuries too much. Not new injuries anyway. So I think we can name the likely 11, and we'll have some subs there that can change the game as well and influence the game at the end, which we have progressed. It's the third season, and now we've got a very decent 11 and a very decent bench, and we've learned a way to play in the Premier League where we can get results away from home. So we've grown as a team substantially from where we were a couple of seasons ago. And we know exactly what to do there. I don't fear the game anymore. Like when we went to the Emirates before, it was like, well, what's it going to be? 3, 4, 5? And it wasn't.
5-0 first year, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't go there thinking we've got to play within ourselves and play with fear. We won't do, because that win at Anfield does us the world of good, because that's probably the hardest place to go and get a result. So to do that, we'll go into the Emirates game thinking that we can get something out of it. Yeah.
So evolving a team, you said evolving as a club as well, to the extent you've taken Arsenal sporting director, mate. What's going on?
Yeah, when it broke a few
referring to
months
Edu
ago,
for those who don't know, obviously.
It broke a few months ago that Edu was on Marinakis' radar. And in the WhatsApp group that I'm on Forest podcast, and we were talking about it on there, going, yeah, right.
Thanks for clarifying which WhatsApp group you're in, Mark, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm in several of those, some darker than others. But we were talking on there months ago about it, and we were like, oh, what are the chances of that? I mean, it's ridiculous. There's no way that we're going to be able to prize him away from Arsenal. I remember watching the Arsenal, was it the Amazon Prime documentary? And Edu got quite a bit of attention in that. And I remember watching it thinking, wow, he's got gravitas. He's obviously behind the scenes a key figure. I think I remember watching the episode on deadline day and the role he played there. Can't remember the players he was bringing in, but there was things he was doing behind the scenes with Arteta and with player agents that made me think, oh, lucky Arsenal. He's a figure who's really a powerful figure who gets things done behind the scenes. So I was impressed with him back then. So when the speculation started, I was like, well, that would be lovely, but there's no chance that happens. And then, lo and behold, the rumours start turning into something much more tangible, and he leaves Arsenal, and he's part of Marinakis' empire. I don't know if it's been official. Is it official now that he's part of that? Is he signed up? I imagine.
I think it is, isn't it? Arsenal confirmed it, haven't they, Adam?
That he's left.
Yeah, Arsenal have confirmed his departure. I haven't seen anything official confirming his new role.
Adam's face is like he's dead to me.
Well, yeah, yeah. We've even got a mural up of him on the Holloway Road outside in the tunnel. As you kind of walk up towards the Emirates on the south side, there's like a little mural of him, because there was a big meme, certainly when he first started at Arsenal, that he would never get anything done, and pictures went on Twitter of him just like barbecuing in Brazil, which kind of became a bit of a joke in Arsenal circles. So that's going to have to get washed off now.
It's a statement, though, isn't it, Mark?
Yeah.
Is this a case of the multi-club model?
Yeah.
Because most people just think, hang on, why is he going from Arsenal to Nottingham Forest, right?
Yeah, so obviously there's Olympiacos and Rio Ave as well, and talk of Marinakis looking at a Brazilian club, and maybe Edu's going to play part in the acquisition of that. And I mean, I don't think it's official. I don't think he's probably on gardening leave of some kind, and he can't sign anything official yet. But it's going to happen. I mean, it seems inevitable. And there's no question that behind the scenes, his interaction with player agents and the fact that he's almost like a Swiss Army knife of what he can do backstage at a football club in terms of the influence he can have anywhere globally. We're obviously already pretty well settled in the Spanish, in the Brazilian transfer market anyway, with what we've done so far. He's going to help us out there, but all around the world, I think he can be someone who, if we've got a deal to make to broker that's difficult and we need someone to get it over the line, you send Edu. It's someone who's going to be able to get it done, I imagine. So it makes me feel very confident that Marinakis must have sold him the dream, must have sold him this is the vision. that must have been convincing enough. I imagine there was a large sum of money involved as well, but I imagine Edu's not going to go anywhere that isn't going to present a challenge and an exciting one. So as a supporter of a club that's part of that empire, I've got to feel we're going in the right direction. Yeah.
Adam, does Mark sum it up well?
I don't want to. I'm not going to rain on a parade, but what I'm going to say isn't
You are,
exactly.
aren't you?
What I'm going to say isn't exactly
He
entirely
is dead to you, isn't
glowing
he?
and positive. He is, and I hope he. No, I don't wish anything mean in him. He seems like a lovely guy, and what Mark is saying is right. Is in the Amazon documentary and everything I have seen from Eddie that has come out of Arsenal is he seems and he has played a very important role in kind of bringing the mood and bringing some of the kind of the positive vibes back at the club, and he's been very good at that. He's very good with the media. He seems to have or certainly seem to have like a very genuine connection with Arteta and the squad. So certainly from a morale perspective at Arsenal, I think it will be a relatively significant loss. And there are other kind of vacancies now in the executive positions at Arsenal that kind of is a separate question that maybe perhaps a bigger reason why I'm more worried that Edu has left. So it's perhaps more the role that is left than the man who's left it that concerns me. I think up until this summer, Edu would probably receive mixed reviews from Arsenal fans in that whilst our incoming business was largely positive, a lot of people thought, well, that's just because we're paying loads of money for a lot of these players, and our outgoings weren't exactly brilliant. Like probably his most significant piece of business was this summer in selling Smith Rowe to Fulham, and he got what at the time I think a lot of Arsenal fans and neutrals as well would have recognised as being a pretty good fee for Arsenal given his injury history and everything around that. But before that, he had kind of failed to get a fee for Reece Nelson when we had been trying to sell him for a season and a half, really. Obviously getting a good fee for Nketiah this year as well, but that was off the back of handing him perhaps an overly inflated contract, which maybe he hadn't proved to be worth. And then the issues, or maybe not issues, perhaps the handling around the Aaron Ramsdale contract extension, then bringing in Raya and trying and not succeeding to sort out what we were going to do with Ramsdale for that season. Sort of left a few question marks around his ability to sell players. And that's on top of the fact that we had gone through a large period, sort of 2 or 3 years ago, of having to pay players off, like where we weren't able to sell players for anything. Like thinking of the likes of, I think Rob Holding moved for a nominal fee, Callum Chambers, and these aren't superstars, but these are the kind of players that if you're a club like Arsenal, you're going to have kind of, not to sound disrespectful, but like mid to lower table fodder filling up your squad that you need to move on eventually. So I don't think he exactly had like a glowing copybook at Arsenal. There were certainly issues that a lot of people, like I was saying, up until this summer, really were probably quite frustrated with. How much of that is on Edu and how much of that is kind of the slow nature with which it seems like our board might make decisions. Now, these negative reports about the board are coming from Edu's camp, so it's a bit like maybe he's just venting his frustrations.
So possibly has been a bit of a falling out.
I don't think there's necessarily been a falling out, but I know that he was certainly frustrated, and I'm pretty sure it was reported that he was frustrated about the board being slow to sanction moves that he had lined up. And the Calafiori one was used as an example of one that Arsenal had kind of had essentially ready to go for months, and then I think it was it Chelsea or City came in later in the summer as interested as well, and that was when we finally pulled the trigger on that deal. So I don't think it was like entirely smooth sailing, but I mean none of these clubs ever are behind the scenes. But yeah, I mean like he's getting paid triple his wages to have a bigger role across a kind of global organization. So from his perspective, like I completely get it, and it's a very different challenge as well. What it seems like he's going to be doing.
And ultimately, if someone puts trouble to money in front of you,
you're going to
human.
Even if you're working for a guy like Marinakis, who I feel like is the kind of guy who would just as soon take away that offer as he would put it on the table. But that's up to him.
It does sound fun, Mark. The idea of working for this man who won't wait for people in the tunnel after games and the like.
Yeah,
It'd be interesting if Edu needs to sell players by the sounds of it on deadline day to even out your PSR though.
the thing is, I think you look at though. I mean, like new, he's what I get from Edo. He's a warm character to have about, like a good communicator, good negotiator, a diplomat. He's probably the things that Marinakis struggles with. Like Marinakis walks into a negotiation and it's a very different vibe to probably someone like Edu, who can charm his way to a good conclusion, I'd hope. And the fact he's brought him in and he's got Nuno as manager. Nuno's a very good human being, a good person. And so for all the kind of speculation on Marinakis' character and what he's involved in, he surrounds himself with people that clearly wants to surround himself with people who are warm and people who have got personalities who can get things done and connect with people, because that's what you need, right? That's what you need in any organisation as leaders. You need to have that. And I think Edo fits that profile. Everything I've read and heard about him, fundamentally, he's a good person who is very, very good at communicating, connecting people, and that's got to help us. And I think when you've got Marinakis as an owner, the intimidating presence that he offers, you need probably someone to counter that, and he's probably perfect to do that. And he's obviously paying him a lot of money, so he must have good use for him. And it's got to be a positive. I can't really see it being anything other than that.
No, there's no reason to think it is negative for you at this stage. Probably more just kind of what's your scenario, Adam, in terms of if there's any concern at this immediate juncture for you.
Well, I mean, that's now two executives we've had depart in the last, or certainly two senior people on the football side of things that we've had depart in the last year and a bit. Like obviously previously it was Vinay Venkatesham, I think is how you pronounce his surname, and now Edu. We've still got people there, so it's not like a completely empty boardroom. We've still got Tim Lewis, who had been a kind of trusted advisor of the Kroenkes, who was brought in to kind of clean shop when things weren't going too well around the Gazidis times. And we've got Richard Garlick, who's a kind of a very experienced like Premier League operator. So there are still football people at that level of the club, but
is there a link to Arteta though?
Yeah, there is a concern amongst the kind of more Arteta skeptic side of the Arsenal fandom, where there's a perhaps worry that we're creeping back into some of the issues we had when Wenger was in charge and the amount of power he had, and we don't want to reach a point where we're now relying on Arteta to scout the players. He's negotiating the contracts. He's like filling up the teapots in the like kitchen and stuff like that. We don't want to get back to that point, which it felt like it was reaching under Wenger, where one person had so much power. So yeah, I haven't seen anything around timelines of when a new kind of sporting director is going to be appointed, but Arteta will play a key role in that appointment, which is not concerning, but from a modern football club perspective, you don't want the manager choosing the executives. It should be the other way around. Whereas I can't imagine Josh Kroenke and Tim Lewis are going to make that decision without speaking to Arteta first.
Okay, let's talk a bit of fantasy. First and foremost, there's some very good, attractive fixtures for some of the popular assets for captaincy in game week 12. I presume, are we ruling Bukayo Saka out of this conversation if he is fit from captaincy here? We just that not an option, Adam, in game week 12 for captaincy?
I don't know if it's not an option, but I mean, I think if you look at the Liverpool fixture, like most people, I think the movement towards Salah is probably only going to kind of increase over the international break. So I would be very surprised. And certainly it's not something I'm considering at the moment to captain Saka.
Okay. A lot of that movement towards Salah, for those who don't own, is obviously going to come from Haaland, who plays your team, Mark, in game week 14. Now, game week 14 is not quite so attractive in terms of captaincy options. Salah going to Newcastle, Chelsea are at Southampton, but it might be a little bit of a rotation wobble concern there for Chelsea in that particular game week. Haaland against your team, Mark? Would that be the sort of one for people who are intent on holding on for Haaland? Is that green light for that week for captaincy?
Well, I mean, he's absolutely murdered us previously, but previously we haven't been in this kind of shape, and we haven't had Milinkovic at the back as well, who physically is equipped to try and deal with him. I think our two centre backs will look at that and they'll be relishing it. I don't think they'll be fearing it. I think they'll be like, well, let's see what we can do. I mean, they're very strong mentally, Murillo and Milinkovic. They won't look at that and be worried or fearful. They'll be looking to go, well, let's see how good we are as a pairing to see if we can deal with it. And teams have this season. They've there's been occasions where they've restricted the service and kept him quiet. And obviously, again, Odegaard's back for Arsenal, De Bruyne's back for City. Perhaps this is just the wrong time for Forest to be playing these teams, because City without De Bruyne have not been devoid of ideas, but they've been a little more kind of predictable in the way they build up. And with De Bruyne there, he's obviously got the quality to unlock any defence. So that's the worry. I don't worry more about Haaland. I'm more worried about the players around him and what service they can get to him. I think I'm looking forward to that game, because they are very exposed on the break, and we are equipped to do that. So we could easily get something there.
Interesting. Adam, have you got Saka at the moment?
I don't at the moment. I'm looking to bring him in though for Son, probably once the international break is over.
I won't blame you for doing that, mate. Do we know anything about the injury? We do legitimately know that he put his hand up himself and asked to come off at Chelsea. So he definitely had a problem. Do we know, so I'm recording Wednesday night, do we know anything about that at this stage?
I am getting the feeling that it's kind of just a recurrence of the same issues that he's been carrying for the past few weeks. I would, at this stage, like, I haven't seen any reports of any kind of serious scans that he's had or anything like that. So I'm imagining he's going to start against Forest.
Would there be any reason for you not to buy him? I mean, the player you're selling, I'm definitely not telling you no to, but if for other people, might be looking to go say Bumo to Saka in forthcoming weeks as an example. Would you have any reason to say no to them?
If it came out that he had a more serious injury and it didn't look like he was going to start the Forest game, because then with our current position in the Champions League, it would make me think, well, he's probably got to start the Sporting away game if he's fit enough. And then you've got a West Ham game, I think is it 3 or 4 days later after that? The turnaround isn't great. So I would be a little bit like, of those games, maybe West Ham is the one where you can give him a rest if he ever does get a rest when he's fit, which we kind of know he doesn't. But...
Adam, because game week 13 is a bit rough for captaincy as well, mate. Liverpool playing City, Chelsea playing Villa. I was hoping you was going to say, yeah, look at West Ham at the moment. Me and Mark were talking about them before we started. Don't need to repeat that. Saka at West Ham 13 could be nice, mate.
It would be great. The only concern would be if it comes out that this injury is more serious than it kind of appears. That would be where I would think of those two games, Sporting is probably the more important one. But yeah, no, I wouldn't be able to put anyone off him unless there's a route where you can only get one of Palmer or Saka, and then maybe that's where you have to put more consideration into that, how you rate those two players. But
Palmer or Saka for you, Adam?
Well, I'll be bringing in Saka and I won't have Palmer. So
okay, big call. So when we sit here in 9-10 days time as we approach the game week 12 deadline, we know that Bukayo Saka is still going to be yellow flagged. That's not going to put you off.
And we know we won't hear anything conclusive from Mikel Arteta either. So we're kind of relying on leaks or reports or rumours and that kind of stuff, really. Okay.
Noted. What Arsenal do you own at the moment, Adam?
At the moment, just David Raya.
Happy with that or not?
Happy... No, but not unhappy enough to where I can be bothered to do anything about it. I feel like the moment I make a goalkeeper transfer, whomever I pick is destined to fail. Like, I know Verbruggen is obviously kind of one that's in the zeitgeist at the moment, but I have a feeling as soon as I make that move, Arsenal will suddenly become very defensively solid and Brighton will start shipping clean sheets. So,
well, the fixtures you've got, Adam, coming up to game week 20, you go to Brighton, would suggest that there's got to be some clean sheets there, isn't there? Forest at home, West Ham away, United at home, Fulham away, Everton at home, Palace away, Ipswich at home, Brentford away, like as a cluster from 12 to 19. Yeah, this is why you want to put the accelerator down. This doesn't feel like the time to be going, I've held Raya for these shit difficult fixtures and now I'm going to sell him. I totally get Brighton as an example coming into a good run now, as are Chelsea, and Verbruggen and Sanchez as cheaper options may appeal. But as a David Raya owner, there's no thought of me doing anything at the moment.
No, and kind of once you've got that premium goalkeeper, I feel like certainly with the injuries that Arsenal have suffered in the defence, otherwise, like it's a safe spot just to kind of set and forget and not really worry about for the rest of the season.
Yeah, the only reason he'd come out for me would if he was the only way for me to find money at the moment. That was the one I had to sacrifice. But it wouldn't be a will of wanting to sell him. Have you got him as well, Mark?
Oh no, don't. I had him. I bought him from the start because when we did the retro on last season, I said, oh, I got this season. I'm going to get the goalkeeper spot right. So I went Raya from the start, and then I wildcarded him out, didn't I? And got Flecken, and it's been a
That scored Raya over this period, hasn't he?
Yeah, but I mean, there's no sitting here now. I absolutely want Raya back. There's no question. But I've got other
really.
To put out
So you're not thinking of say Flecken to Verbruggen, like Adams mentioned?
No. I think that Raya's a level above the other keepers. I think yeah. Look at Brighton, look at Chelsea in other areas, but I don't think you can look at their any defence other than Arsenal's and have other than Liverpool's obviously and have any kind of degree of certainty in it.
True, but if you look at, say, if you're just comparing, say, with Brighton and Chelsea, because we mentioned them enabling keepers, you look at Brighton's backline, Van Heck, you're going to take a punt on his Stupinan because Kadioglu's out for a while. Can't go Chelsea's fullbacks, that's too messy. So what, Fofana and Colwell's boring. Whereas you could go one of the enablers and you can go Gabriel and Saliba, or I presume, Adam, based on what you said earlier about Ben White, Jurrien Timber's going to play going forward at a cheaper price now, isn't he?
Well, yes, asterisk, depending on if Calafiori is back after it reports
Timber
seem
will
to
go to
be,
right back, wouldn't
yeah, but then who are we playing at left back?
he? Calafiori, if he's back.
Yeah. So on the assumption that Calafiori is back fit after the international break, the reports today are looking more positive on him, so it seems like he will be, then yeah, I imagine Timber will start right back.
That an option for you, Timber, 5.5?
Yeah, I mean, in theory, yes, but am I going to completely rule out Timber being benched for a game and Partey playing right back and Marino coming into midfield? Now Odegaard's back, we do have the option to do that. Like I wouldn't rule it out totally, but I can see why there is definitely more interested in him.
Yeah. To go back though, Mark, like one of the arguments always with Raya was which is the cheapest way in. Sure, Timber might get a rest somewhere, but he's clearly going to play the majority of the games till
Feels
into
like
the
that.
new year, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean that news today did shift the landscape a little bit. But I just like the idea of just a set and forget on the goalkeeper. I miss not having Raya there and not thinking about that position. I don't want to think about it. I want to focus on the positions that perhaps can have a bigger impact. But yeah, I want to have two Arsenal defenders really. I want Raya and Gabriel back again. That's what I started with, and now I want to kind of move back in that direction. I think, yes, that stops you having Saka and Havertz, or maybe consider Odegaard, but I think one Arsenal attacker is enough, and I want to prioritise the defence.
Yeah, I haven't sat through these tough, difficult fixtures, Adam, with Raya and Gabriel to bin one of them now, mate. It's like now it's on the stretch, isn't it? And we'll deal with this in the new year if it doesn't work out, is kind of my take at the moment. Are you looking to add a second yourself, Adam?
After Saka, I think I'll probably just wait to see how we shape up and how we line up in the midfield in this Forest game, and then kind of take a bit of a bellwether from there because I'm expecting. Wasn't entirely borne out in the Chelsea match, but I think Odegaard back in a perhaps weird way also makes us stronger defensively as well as it does from an attacking perspective because as you've mentioned and you and Clayton have talked about, he's such a key trigger for the press that we
It's
do.
phenomenal.
And he kind of brings the midfield up with him and his ability to position other players when he is on the pitch, I think is really underrated and very important for us, which I think has been noticeably absent in the way that in games without him, our midfield has been a little bit more easy to kind of run through and bypass than it has otherwise been. So I'm expecting him back to kind of make us look more cohesive as a midfield and defensive unit. So I want to kind of take a pulse of that in the Forest game, but certainly I'm open to it.
One of my options is someone sitting there with Trent I'm guessing you are as well, Mark.
Mm.
Is for me, one of my options, Adam, is to add a third Arsenal and go treble. The only real reason I can think not to do it is I then can't have Saka and Havertz going forward.
Mm.
That's it. Otherwise, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, I wouldn't be on board with that, to be honest. When you're looking at a run with West Ham, Everton, kind of Crystal Palace in their kind of current form and Ipswich, like, not that you're
All
gonna
teams that I
doubt.
don't feel like will score goals against you, Adam.
Yeah, no, that's very fair, but all teams that you expect Arsenal to score probably two or three against.
Yeah,
And with Saka, when Saka's ownership, it will creep up. And with games in that period, he will be a captain option. It is going to get quite dangerous to go against that.
easy though. I look at game week 16. So 16 at home to Everton, 18 at home to Ipswich. 16 at home to Everton. Palmer's got Brentford at home. Right? They can't defend at the moment. In any case, it's a home fixture for Mo against Fulham. And Isak might be really popular at that stage. You've got Leicester at home. In game week 18, you've got the best spacing in the sense that you play the weekend before and you play Ipswich on the Friday night and then don't play Brentford till New Year's Day. So you've got a long gap. But Mo's playing Leicester at home the night before. Saka's not getting the captaincy, mate.
You might be in a position where some people, I don't know, I've got Salah and intend to hold him, but you never know other people's circumstances, and like people want to look for a differential captain option. And I can see Saka being appealing, knowing the fact that he'll probably come back on corners, he'll be on penalties, all that kind of stuff. Like the narrative will build for it. And outside of the captaincy, his ownership will certainly creep up then.
Mark, take on Saka.
I don't think it's all about the captaincy. I just think that it's sometimes like I think we're going to have to swap these heavy hitter players. I think it's Salah, Palmer, Haaland, Saka. Maybe not Son now, but these players are going to be in rotation. We can't have all of them, but we can probably stretch to three if we don't go Haaland. I mean, you got to put Bruno in there, I guess. He's got to be in the conversation as well. He's a different price point.
Slippers will be well happy. Well done.
I mean, I don't want to. I prefer Saka. I think that he's obviously you pay the extra money, but I think he is in that higher bracket than Bruno. Similar low, talisman on penalties and so on. I think that I want Saka for the Everton Palace Ipswich run. I'd like to ask Adam how he feels Havertz will cover that period as well, because obviously that's the alternative is you look away from Saka and you try and cover Arsenal's goal output there via Havertz. So it's something I've been wondering all season. I haven't done it yet, but something I might do.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because Havertz over these last few games has kind of looked a little bit out on his feet to me. Like I think he's still giving it his all, but the team without Odegaard and the role that Havertz is having to do is he's almost having to do a bit of that pressing role himself. So I think he's looked pretty exhausted, and of course he had the injury. It was over the last international break where he picked up that injury. So he in himself probably hasn't been 100% fit over the last few games. The I would be very hesitant to say he would be able to cover him, but I've got no like the last like 3 or 4 games hasn't made me doubt his ability as both the player and like his potential as an FPL asset like massively, because I think my assumption is when Odegaard gets back, that's an extra avenue of creativity. That's almost an extra assister for him. Like it's not going to be just kind of crosses as the majority of it has been with Saka as the kind of primary creative outlet. So there's definitely an extra avenue for points for him, and hopefully if he kind of gets a little bit of a rest, builds up a bit more fitness, I think he's a good option over that easier run.
Havertz, 90 minutes every game so far, Adam.
That's what I'm saying. He's like these last few games, he has just looked quite like the Chelsea game, especially like he had the goal disallowed, but he looked pretty exhausted to me. And he is a player who, despite his kind of subdued languid
I
style.
wonder also, again, consequence of Odegaard being back, he will have had to work harder
Yeah, no,
because
100%.
Odegaard isn't there.
100%. Like I think he's been doing a bit more of that pressing role in the front line. And the dynamic has been different in terms of like him and Trossard kind of rotating positions, that's an extra thing for him to consider, whereas his role will be much more what he's used to and kind of a little bit simplified, I think, with Odegaard back in the team.
I have eyes potentially on Havertz. I looked at a potential plan myself yesterday, looking at Watkins, who obviously has Brentford and Southampton at home 14-15, looks great. Then there's a tough three fixtures for Villa, which ironically starts with a trip to Forest, City at home, Newcastle away. And those are the three games where Havertz would have Everton at home, Palace away, Ipswich at home. You can go back for Watkins after Havertz has played Brentford in the week after and walk straight back into Watkins at home to Leicester. Now, my problem with that is it means I'm selling Havertz before the North London derby. Otherwise, I think that looks great.
Well, and you're also then walking into Watkins. Doesn't he play Arsenal at the Emirates? Isn't that the game week after the North London derby?
Yeah, I've got rid of Watkins. I don't want him to play against
Oh,
you. Like I didn't want him to play against Liverpool this last weekend, actually. So,
yeah.
but yeah, there's a little flip there. I mean, you've spoken about rotating them premiums. You can do it with some of them forwards for some really good chains there, like that,
Mm,
Mark, as well.
mm.
Talking of forwards, Mark, I presume you've had Chris Wood all season.
No, no, I'm not going to make a Wood joke either. You're not going to trick me into that. I haven't had him, no, and it's obviously been a source of frustration. But yeah, and I'm not going there now because of the fixtures. I think we'll continue to score goals, and I think he'll be a ready supply, and he's certainly not under threat in terms of starting role. Which when we at the start of the season we were like, well, how long till Amani's going to be fit? But that's not a thing now. It's not a
No.
factor. So yeah, people. The thing is, there are so many options, and we're in a very unique season here where we've got rotation on the heavies, but also, like you say, rotation up front. We have got 7, 8 candidates now for those 3 slots, and there's no talk of maybe just playing 2 up front. You can easily play 3 and have a choice there who you go with according to fixture. It's a great season for that. So in that scenario, Wood is someone now that people are rotating out because of the fixtures, and I think that's valid.
If you own, do you think you'd sell?
Yeah, yeah, I think the likes of Kuna in particular, we've spoken a lot about him, but you've got to start looking at Isak now, the form and the fixtures that he's got, and we talked about Havertz, but there's multiple forward options that are tempting now. João Pedro's back and he's even cheaper, so you got to look at him with fixtures. Rissa's on a great run, and they've still got games where they have to score goals because they're shipping in plenty at the back. So yeah, so many options.
Arsenal, Manchester City, and Manchester United, 3 of the next 4 away from home. But I guess one reason for owners to hold, Mark, would be we've said game week 13 captaincy. You are at home to Ipswich. Community or many members of the community have never failed captaining a forward at home to Ipswich Town. That might be a reason to hold, Mark.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, we'd expect to win that game. We'd expect to score a couple of goals. I think that's probably a likely outcome. I think Ipswich have got a bit about them though, so I think it'll be a good game. But I think it'll be a game where we will still look to score a couple at least. So I don't know. I mean, I guess these days the way it works with a bonus, a striker only has to score once and he's getting free bonus, and suddenly a 1 goal return is 9 points. So there is value in that for sure, because you would back Chris Wood to get a goal in that game.
And he's clear talisman for you, isn't he? I mean, to use like the Brentford analogy, Bukayo or Visser any week, isn't it? He doesn't feel like that with your team.
No, but there are, I mean, now it gives White's back, and if Anderson can be worked into the team as well, there are other sources of goals there. Set pieces, we've got a threat as well. So we can win a game without Wood scoring, but I would say, in this run that we've got, you look at the easier fixtures, you would back Chris Wood to come out with a goal or 2 for sure, because he's just been relentless in that he's been delivering, and he doesn't need 4 or 5 chances to put one away. He maybe just needs 1 or 2.
Okay. Adam, you got any Forest at the moment?
Yeah, I've got Wood in the.
Hey,
Walked into that one.
Captain him.
Probably not. Certainly not this week. I'm looking at Isak. Kind of Cunha curious, but the fact that I might look at Aït-Nouri makes me think, do I really want to get 2 Wolves players? Perhaps not. So kind of leaning towards Isak with the kind of money I've banked from selling Haaland.
Okay. Mark, have you got Forest at all or not?
I haven't got any Forest. No.
I take it there's obviously a crowd of wild carding at the moment, Mark. Avoid because of the fixtures.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're looking for a 4-5 defender, though, then you've got to put our cast of defenders in the mix because in any game, we can go and keep a clean sheet. I think we're now of that type of team that I think we will go away to someone like Man United and keep a clean sheet. You know, we can do that. We can frustrate and we're hard to break down. And you have to play well to score against us now. You have to have that little bit of invention. And not every team has got it. So, you know, we will get clean sheets when we're not expected to. And so having an Aina or Murillo, Milenkovic, or even Moreno, who's even cheaper, there's no harm in that. It's as good as any other 4-5, I would say. Like, yeah, Brighton have got good fixtures, Chelsea have got good fixtures, but I still think we're better defensively than both those teams.
I don't disagree with that. It's just obviously the fixtures, isn't it? You'd speak about, say, a clean sheet at Man United, but yeah, who's going to be brave enough to start their Forest defender at Manchester United is where it's at, isn't it? I think even when it turns around a bit better for you, because your fixtures are pretty tough up to basically playing my team, certainly for the defensive guys, actually, because you even factor in Brentford away in 17 as being a tough one for the defensive guys. Play my team at home in Boxing Day, then it looks better, but it's away, Everton away, Wolves away, and then after that it's Liverpool at home, then Southampton at home, but then Bournemouth and Brighton don't feel easy either. So for like a long sustained period, I don't know how often those Forest guys would be getting selected. What would be your preference though, Mark? We've obviously got a bit of a split in the pricings now occurred with Olarena up to 4.7. The two centre-backs are 4.5. Everyone keeps telling us Milenkovic will score, so Murillo eventually did, obviously, at the weekend. And Alex Moreno is 0.1 cheaper. If people do want to go there, what's the call for you at this stage?
I think Milenkovic will end the season on a couple of goals. So I think that is coming. So I'd probably just about favour him because Aina's 4.7 and I don't think you want to go there. So I would go Milenkovic.
Okay. And do you owe Matt Sells an apology?
I do. I still think we're going to go fishing for a keeper.
Oh, another goalkeeper. Here we go.
Can never have enough.
Got Belgium's goalkeeper, mate, and he's decent.
Yeah, he's all right. He's all right, but
you're not convinced, are
you? Yeah, he's done brilliantly, and he's grown, and maybe it's got something to Nuno, ex-keeper. Maybe the coaching's played a part. I didn't start the season with confidence in him, but he's done brilliantly, and fair play to him. So, but I still think that it's one of the positions that we'll look to strengthen for sure.
Okay, cool, gents. Thank you both so much. Let's do predictions before we finish. Adam.
I think it's going to be a very tight game, but I'm going to go 2-0 Arsenal.
Mark?
I'm going to go 2-1 Arsenal. I think that
you always think you'll score, don't you?
I think we will score. Yeah, I think we'll score. I think we'll get it back to 1-1, but they'll nick it.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Mark actually on this one, Adam, because I've still got double Arsenal defence. I think I'm cursing it somewhat. So, yeah, I'm going to say 2-1 Arsenal. Adam, anything you want to plug before we finish?
You can catch me on FPL Juice. I was on the stream section last weekend. I'm sure I'll be on another one soon. And follow me on Twitter at 352 and Blue Sky as well, if I ever figure out how to actually use that app.
I see you followed me already, mate. I saw
the follow back. I don't think I did.
Yeah, you can follow Planet FPL apparently on Blue Sky as well. No one knows if Mark will join or not.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that today on my timeline, so I need to have a look at that. I don't know when I get a bit of time.
Yeah, your boy Az is there.
I know he is.
There's your segue. Go on.
Yeah, Black Box, of course. All about Black Box. We'll be back doing the regular show. Won't be till next Friday though, because I'm in Bulgaria again next week, so I can't rely on the. Thanks for stepping in for me last time, James, when I was in Bulgaria.
You're welcome. I was already expecting a message from Az when you said you was in Bulgaria.
Yeah, we're going to do probably a Friday night show, which they always do all right because obviously they're pre-deadline and we'll probably be a bit late. Well, even if we start early, we'll end up being late because we go on for hours. But I'm going to probably try and do a walkabout video on Saturday as well. So I'll get a video out Saturday, just looking ahead, looking back a bit, and then we'll do the show normally on Friday.
Good stuff. Thank you both so much. I'll be streaming tomorrow lunchtime scheduled for 12 p.m. with Arse James. 2 Clash of Correspondents for you next week. Next Thursday, Newcastle versus West Ham, Simon Bibby and Chris Stone. And a Monday clash to correspondence for you, including the team that I hope now wins the league this year. Southampton versus Liverpool with Matt Samuel and Dan Lord. Just leaves me to say thanks so much to Adam and to Mark. Good luck, gents. Cue music, please, man child.